Trilogies. They've been a staple in cinematic history for decades now. I mean, everybody has their favourite trilogy. Whether it's part of a larger franchise, a classic story told through the lens of westerns, or hell, there's plenty of horror trilogies to choose from. But as these three film structures fall to the whim of Hollywood, it's been interesting seeing this dynamic being used in a larger context. In other words, a cinematic universe. Nowadays, you can have your pick of cinematic universes depending on your personal preference of movie tastes. Marvel is consistent in its humour and tone, though that's also one of its biggest downfalls, as none of their films pop out as creatively diverse. Star Wars offers up very human stories told through the lens of a sci-fi universe, but careful, the quality of this franchise shoots up and down at a rapid rate. The Tolkien universe takes you on an adventure through a fantasy world with a trilogy that won Oscars and wowed audiences the world over. The following trilogy, not so much. Each one of these franchises contains several trilogies that add to the larger context of the cinematic universes, providing backstory and foreshadowing that allows each of the following movies to build on and improve. When it's done right, it's a joy to watch. As a viewer, you feel in the loop and invested in the story when you see your favourite characters cross over with others who you love because you've also had a trilogy to invest in them too. Cinematic universes have been a helpful narrative tool for Hollywood franchises. Some have been successful, while I'd say a good 40% of attempts have become visual and commercial flops, which is a shame. Nobody sets out to create a bad movie, or even a bad trilogy. About half of all trilogies out there have had separate writers and directors for each film, which can be jarring if one of them decides he doesn't like where the story's going in and wants to completely change the narrative in the second film by throwing everything out the window from the first film like a giant bean-headed baby. However, choosing to have different directors for a trilogy isn't necessarily a death sentence. The Hannibal Lecter films were helmed by Jonathan Demme, Ridley Scott and Brett Ratner, and that franchise won Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress and Best Screenplay, all on the same night! With all that said, the trilogy I wanted to look at today belongs to Godzilla. Spoilers ahead for the following films. Don't at me, bruh. The first film in the trilogy came out in 2014, directed by Gareth Edwards, if you couldn't tell by the colour palette of the movie. Between this and Rogue One, I'm convinced Gareth Edwards is colourblind. Turn your saturation up, my dude, your Zack Snyder is showing. The first trailer for this film boasted Bryan Cranston as its main character, which is what originally swung my decision to watch it because, ooh, I loved me some Bryan Cranston since Breaking Bad became the best thing ever. However, when he gets unceremoniously killed off in the first act, we're left with his son, generically handsome white protagonist whose name I don't remember, so let's call him Face. I'm sorry, but how do you hire one of the best actors of this generation to helm your new franchise, give him backstory, depth, and a direct emotional tie to Godzilla, only to kill him off in the first action set piece? The story then follows Face as he tries to get home to his wife and son in San Francisco, while Godzilla is trying to stop the kaiju. Whoops, wrong franchise. Wait, Legendary owns Pacific Rim 2. Why didn't you just have Godzilla fight some fucking Jaegers? I'd be down to watch that. I think everybody would be down to watch that. Godzilla 2014 delights in showing us the destruction brought on by these massive titans, but only after the fact. Director Gareth Edwards wanted to hold off on showing the monster fights until the end to avoid the viewer getting fatigued from all the action and entertainment? It's a bold creative choice, but it's not without its drawbacks. The film can distinctly be categorized as, ooh, here we go, some monster action. Oh, okay. Yeah, big monster time, and fuck. Whoa, look at that. Wait, did you really just cut away from the big action scene to a fucking sleeping child? Don't get me wrong, I understand you want to keep your big monsters hidden for as long as possible. I mean, that's Monster Film 101. But when Godzilla only gets 10.5 minutes of screen time in a movie that spans 2 hours and is titled Godzilla, you may have taken it too far. The 2014 entry into this franchise may have also taken itself a bit too seriously. What's ultimately a film about big monsters punching each other in the face gets pushed through this lens of realism, which is a different take on the material for sure, but hardly a recipe for a popcorn summer movie schlockbuster. It's not a bad film by any means, it's actually quite decent, but for a film titled Godzilla, it spends a good 95% in the movie focusing on the human characters, who are all fairly one-dimensional except for Ishiro Serizawa. But as an Act 1 of a 3-part trilogy, it's decent. Not a perfect movie, but a good jumping off point for someone else to take the franchise forwards. Well, 5 years later in 2019, Michael Dougherty gave the world a sequel, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Learning the lessons from the first movie, Legendary Pictures turned the saturation up, added more monsters, and did their best to make the human aspects of the movie more entertaining. They failed in one of these endeavours. Can you guess which? Yep. It pains me to say that the second film in this franchise about giant titans engaging in battles focuses far too much on the humans yet again, constantly cutting from the action to bring us back to these humans who we don't even give a shit about in a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters. I haven't seen Stranger Things Legendary, I don't care about Millie Bobby too many names. However, some lessons were learned, and so alongside the usual drab human drama, our human characters actually take an active role in the story and plot. In the first Godzilla film, Face constantly just happens to be in the same place as the Titans. At least in the second installment, the humans are more utilitarian and have reasons for being involved. It was also nice seeing Vivian Graham and Ishiro Serizawa return from the first film. Can't wait to see what these characters do in this kind of situation. Oh, whoops. That's gonna leave a mark. Still, at least the monsters get a lot more screen time. We're treated to a good few set pieces with multiple Titan fights, and it's glorious when it's not nighttime and pissing down with fucking rain. We really need this in every fight scene, do we? They all need to be at night. It's been interesting seeing the transformation of this franchise slowly happen over a couple of movies. In the first Godzilla film, it's very grounded and somewhat contained as a story. By the time the sequel rolls around, and the studio knows which direction they want to take this franchise, instead of a realistic Godzilla movie back in 2014, we're treated to over a dozen Titans, an alien with 3 heads as an antagonist, and a hollow Earth. You know, don't get me wrong, just a few moments ago I was complaining about the franchise taking itself too seriously, so it's good to see it embracing the silly side of its narrative at least. King of the Monsters was also the first film that struck me as visually cinematic. With the opening entry in this franchise having its moments of pictorial splendour, the overall muted grey palette of the movie wasn't massively appealing. Director Michael Dougherty did a great job this time round. Every Titan looks great and the battles are a spectacle to watch, when it's not cutting away from the action to focus on the fucking humans, that is. It's irritating that we've had 2 films in this trilogy about a big radioactive lizard, and so far they've both been primarily concerned with the humans and their survival. The plot consists of Tywin Lannister letting loose King Ghidorah, who proceeds to make life shit on Earth. It's down to Godzilla to remember the cheat codes to unlock his alternate outfit and abilities. We meet some other monsters along the way, but really the main battle consists of these 2 Titans. While the big CGI set pieces do their part to entertain, and make no mistake, these giant spectacles keep you watching with its giant scope and scale. The problems arise when the movie reverts to the humans and their awkward dialogue and interactions. None of the dialogue in this movie feels genuine. Nobody talks like a real person would in these situations. Everybody's a caricature of a character. Take this scene where Godzilla is fast approaching a Monarch base and the humans decide to arm their defenses in anticipation of an attack. You heard Boss Lady, let's move. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you responded to your superior officer this way, you would not only get kicked off your station, but you'd be fucking lucky to be still wearing a uniform, sir. The transformation of these films from grounded, gritty monster movie to all-out Titanic battle schlockbuster is almost complete. King of the Monsters was the connecting tissue between these 2 extremes. When it's doing what it does well, it's great. When it's dragging in its B-plots, you yawn. In a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's possible for you to yawn. Good job, Legendary. You wasted Tywin Lannister, you literally fucking nuked Ishiro Serizawa, and you put Bryan Cranston in a body bag within 40 minutes of your franchise opening. But hey, at least we got Red Godzilla. Yay. The final installment in this trilogy is Godzilla v Kong, and for those wondering why I'm not covering Kong Skull Island, easy, it's called the Godzilla trilogy. This film may be my favourite of the three. Legendary has had 2 Godzilla films up to this point to realise what the fans want to see and what we don't care about. Yeah, that's right, I'm talking about you again, face. Godzilla v Kong was marketed as a God v King battle spectacular, and whether you were a fan of the old Scaly Boy or Big Monkey, it was sure to be an epic face-off with plenty of set pieces to marvel at. And though the movie feels once again to implement some form of human B-plot, the characters in this movie are almost completely utilitarian. Every single human's role can be narrowed down to helping Big Monkey fight Big Lizard. There's no dull family drama with Millie Bobby too many names. There's no meandering shots of face looking hungry. The humans only exist to push the plot forwards and nothing else. This allows the Titans to take centre stage, which is exactly what the fans wanted at this point. We've had Godzilla be realistic. Then we had Godzilla being a walking nuke. In this latest installment, we're treated to Kong v Godzilla in Hong Kong neon lights. The plot is kind of irrelevant in this movie, like it's there for sure, but all you want to see is Big Monkey fight Big Lizard. Granted, it's hard to shrug off the real world implications of Godzilla using his atomic breath to create a hole to the centre of the earth, which Kong then climbs up to fight him, but it doesn't matter. The evolution into schlockbuster is complete when physics doesn't even get a movie ticket. Sit back and eat your popcorn, you fuck. Give me all your money. That being said, the plot of this movie feels so incredibly bizarre that it already feels like it doesn't belong in the same cinematic universe as its more grounded counterpart. As soon as you introduce the Hollow Earth, flying sex toys and Mechagodzilla, you know you're in for a good time. Hey, Godzilla ended up fighting Jaegers in the end. Just turn your brain off to the nonsensical how of the situation and be entertained by the big monkey holding big axe glowing blue. When the fighting starts, we rarely cut away from it to see how the humans are doing, and when we do, it's in service of the action set piece that's happening. The big third act twist isn't exactly hidden though. If you saw the trailer for this film, or saw the promotional toys that were released, you knew this character was coming. Mechagodzilla's appearance is pretty predictable if you're familiar with these character v character films. The studios involved can't afford to piss off fans of either franchise, so we're treated to a couple of set pieces to appease each fan base, before being presented with a third villain that requires our heroes to team up instead of fighting each other. Sound familiar? With that being said, just because it's a predictable movie trope, it doesn't mean it's not entertaining. What's best though, is that Legendary took the comments fans made about the previous installments and fixed them for this one. Fight scenes too dark and too rainy. Here's Mechagodzilla yeeting Kong and Godzilla in broad daylight in Hong Kong. Too much dull family drama. Here the humans only exist to get Kong to Godzilla. Don't care about Millie Bobby too many names. Fuck, she's actually in this one too? Okay. Well, I never said it was a perfect trilogy. It is, however, an interesting transformation of a franchise that started out with a realistic and somewhat small-scale Godzilla film that focused too much on humans, a follow-up movie that expanded on the monster side but still focused too much on humans, to finally an epic showdown between 2 iconic cinema legends in a schlockbuster spectacular featuring humans. Maybe Legendary will make more of these films. Godzilla v Kong certainly made enough money to warrant more follow-ups, which I think is one of the main problems with Hollywood at the moment actually. In lieu of a trilogy, studios are pushing more and more for cinematic universes, which is fine when you own an IP with hundreds of characters to adapt, but if your main character is a big monkey or a big lizard, maybe it's best to keep it smaller scale, and that's easier to say now than back in 2014 when the first Godzilla was released. But after seeing what this franchise can aim for when it goes full schlockbuster, it's only a matter of time before it gets out of hand. Look at the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, I've personally never really cared about it all seems a bit steely-wheely automobile-y, but every few years we're treated to cars doing stunts that make physics curl up in a ball and die, yet they make bank, meaning Hollywood will keep pumping out these films assuming they're on the right path. The problems arise when nobody stands up and says, maybe we should pull the reins back a wee bit. Case in point, now they're driving in space. Space race. But whatever you watch next, have a think of what your favourite trilogy consists of and why you dig it so much. You may find it's because something personal that Hollywood can't replicate. Not for lack of trying though.